The sleek glass walls of LAX buzzed with the chaos of travelers, but I, Mark Reynolds, felt like the only man standing still, my carry-on slung over my shoulder. My phone buzzing with a single text from my assistant. Flight landed early. Surprise her. I'd been in Chicago for a grueling 3-day conference, pitching my tech startup to investors who'd rather golf than listen to my ideas about AI-driven logistics. I was exhausted, my tie loose, my suit wrinkled, but the thought of surprising Jessica, my wife of 7 years, lit a spark in my chest. I pictured her face, those hazel eyes that crinkled when she smiled, the way she'd throw her arms around me, her laughter filling our Brentwood mansion. I'd been gone too long, and I missed her like crazy. I hailed an Uber, my heart racing with anticipation, the LA sun glinting off the skyscrapers as we sped toward home. Our house was a modern masterpiece, floor-to-ceiling windows, a sprawling pool that shimmered like a sapphire, and a driveway lined with Jessica's prized rose bushes. Their crimson blooms a stark contrast to the white stucco walls. I bought this place for her 5 years ago, a symbol of our success. My tech career taking off while she built her interior design business. We were the power couple everyone envied, or so I thought. I tipped the driver, grabbed my bag, and slipped my key into the lock, the familiar click echoing in the quiet afternoon. The house was silent, the kind of silence that felt heavy, expectant, like the calm before a storm. "Jess?" I called, my voice bouncing off the marble floors, my footsteps muffled by the Persian rug she'd picked out last spring. No answer. Maybe she was napping, I thought, or out with her yoga friends. I dropped my bag by the staircase, the faint scent of her lavender perfume lingering in the air, and headed upstairs to our bedroom. The door was ajar, just a crack, and I pushed it open with a smile, ready to surprise her. But the sight that greeted me stopped me cold, my heart plummeting like a stone into the Pacific. There, on our California king bed, the one we'd spent months choosing, the one where we'd whispered promises of forever, was Jessica, tangled in the sheets with another man. My best friend, Tom Carter. Her legs were wrapped around him, her nails digging into his back. His blonde hair mussed from her fingers, their laughter a sickening melody that filled the room. They didn't even notice me at first, too lost in each other, their bodies moving in a rhythm that made my stomach churn. I stood there, frozen, my briefcase slipping from my hand, hitting the hardwood with a dull thud that finally snapped their heads toward me. "Mark." Jessica gasped, her eyes wide with panic, her hands scrambling to pull the sheets over her naked body. Tom rolled off her, his face pale, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, no words coming out. Jessica's hair was a mess, her lipstick smeared, and the guilt in her eyes was a knife to my gut. You're supposed to be in Chicago," she stammered, her voice trembling, her hands clutching the sheet like a lifeline. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, my mind racing to make sense of the betrayal unfolding before me. Tom, my best friend since college, the guy who'd been my best man at our wedding, who'd toasted to our unbreakable love with tears in his eyes, was now sitting on my bed, his boxers crumpled on the floor, his betrayal as stark as the sunlight streaming through the window. "I got back early," I said finally, my voice low, steady, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. "Thought I'd surprise you." The words felt like glass in my throat, sharp and jagged, cutting me open with every syllable. Jessica's face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes, but I didn't buy it. Not for a second. "Mark, I can explain," she said, her voice rising, desperate, as she stumbled out of bed, wrapping the sheet around her like a shield. "It's not what it looks like. It was a mistake, a one-time thing. I swear." Tom finally found his voice, his hands raised in surrender, his tone pleading. "Dude, I'm so sorry, man. It just happened. We didn't mean for it to. Didn't mean for it to happen?" I cut him off, my voice a snarl, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. "You're in my bed, Tom. My bed, with my wife, and you didn't mean for it to happen?" I took a step forward, my anger boiling over, the room shrinking around me as the reality of their betrayal sank in. Jessica reached for me, her hand trembling, but I jerked away, my skin crawling at the thought of her touch. "Don't," I said, my voice cold, final, my eyes burning into hers. "Don't you dare touch me." The air was thick with tension, the kind that made your chest ache, your lungs burn, as if the room itself was suffocating under the weight of their lies. I turned to leave, my mind a whirlwind of rage and pain, But Jessica's voice stopped me, her words a desperate plea. "Mark, please, let's talk about this," she cried, her tears falling now, her voice breaking. "I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. Don't walk away." I paused, my hand on the doorknob, my back to her, and for a moment, I almost turned around. Almost. But then I saw it. On the nightstand, glinting in the sunlight, was her phone, the screen lighting up with a new message. A name flashing across it. Tom. In the preview of the text, "Can't wait to see you again tonight, babe." My blood ran cold, my heart shattering into a million pieces. The betrayal cutting deeper than I'd thought possible. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a lie, a calculated, ongoing affair, and I'd been a fool to think otherwise. I turned back to them, my eyes locking on Jessica's, her tear-streaked face a mask of guilt, and I felt something shift inside me, a cold, hard resolve taking root where my love for her used to be. "You love me," I said, my voice a whisper, my lips curling into a bitter smile. "That's funny, Jess, because I don't even know who you are anymore." I walked out, their voices fading behind me. Jessica's sobs mixing with Tom's stammered apologies, but I didn't look back. I couldn't. Not yet. The sun was setting over LA, the sky a fiery orange, and as I stepped into the driveway, the roses Jessica loved so much seemed to mock me, their beauty a cruel reminder of the life we'd built together, the life she'd just destroyed. But as I got into my car, my hands gripping the steering wheel, a plan began to form in my mind, a plan as cold and calculated as her betrayal. She thought this was a mistake she could cry her way out of, but she was wrong. Stick around, because this drama is just getting started, and Jessica has no idea what's coming. The neon lights of downtown LA flickered through the windshield of my Tesla, casting jagged shadows across my face as I drove through the city, my mind a battlefield of rage, betrayal, and disbelief. Jessica's betrayal, her tangled in our California king bed with Tom, my best friend since college, played on a loop in my head, each frame a fresh stab to my heart. Her tearful lies, her desperate plea of "it was a one-time thing," echoed in my ears. But the text on her phone, "Can't wait to see you again tonight, babe," had shattered any illusion of her innocence. I'd spent 7 years loving her, building a life together in our Brentwood mansion, pouring my soul into my tech startup while she built her interior design empire, and now I was left with nothing but the ashes of a marriage I'd thought was unbreakable. My phone buzzed incessantly in the passenger seat, Jessica's name lighting up the screen. 23 missed calls, 12 voicemails, a flood of texts begging me to come home, to talk, to let her explain. I ignored them all, my jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might crack, my hands gripping the steering wheel as I pulled into the parking lot of my office. A sleek glass building that had once been my sanctuary, a symbol of my success. Inside, the office was dark, the hum of the AC the only sound as I dropped into my chair, the leather creaking under my weight. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to get them from Jessica's crocodile tears or Tom's stammered apologies. I grabbed my laptop, my fingers trembling as I logged into our shared cloud account, a digital vault where we stored everything, photos from our trips, bills, memories of a life I'd thought was real. I scrolled through folders, my heart pounding, my eyes scanning for anything that might confirm what I already suspected. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It took me an hour, my breath ragged, my vision blurring with a mix of rage and tears, when I found it, a hidden folder labeled "Work Stuff," buried deep in a subfolder, a place Jessica must have thought I'd never look. I clicked it open, and what I found was a digital diary of her affair, a betrayal so deep, so calculated, it stole the air from my lungs. There were hundreds of messages, screenshots, photos, a timeline of her deception that stretched back to our honeymoon in Hawaii, just 6 months after we'd said, "I do," under a canopy of orchids in Maui. "I can't stop thinking about you," she'd written to Tom, her words dripping with longing, dated the day after we'd returned, while I'd been working late to secure our first big investor for my startup, oblivious to the fact that my wife was already slipping away. There were photos of them together, at a beach in Malibu, their toes in the sand, her head on his shoulder, a hotel room in Vegas, their bodies tangled in sheets, a candlelit dinner at La Bella Vita, the Italian restaurant where I'd proposed to her, her engagement ring glinting on her finger as she laughed with him, not me. My stomach churned, while rising in my throat as I scrolled through the evidence of their affair, each image a fresh wound, each message a betrayal deeper than the last. But the worst was yet to come. Buried among the photos were bank statements, dozens of them, showing transfers from our joint account to Tom's name. Over $300,000 in total, money she'd funneled to his failing logistics startup. A pipe dream he'd been chasing for years. My startup, the one I'd built from sleepless nights and endless pitches, had been funding his betrayal, my trust in her a weapon she'd used against me. One message stood out, dated just a month ago. "Mark's so busy with his investors, he'll never notice the transfers," Jessica had written, followed by a string of laughing emojis. Tom's reply was a knife to my heart. "We'll have it all soon, babe. Just wait." His money, our future. I slammed the laptop shut, my breath coming in sharp, ragged gasps. My hand shaking with a rage so intense I thought I might break something: my desk, my marriage, myself. I needed a drink, something to dull the edges of the pain. So I drove to a dive bar in Echo Park, the kind of place where the floors were sticky and the patrons didn't ask questions. The bartender, a grizzled guy with a scar across his cheek, slid a double whiskey my way without a word, and I downed it in one gulp, the burn in my throat a welcome distraction from the fire in my chest. My phone buzzed again. Jessica. Her voice cracking in a voicemail, begging me to come home, to forgive her, to let her make it right. But I couldn't listen, couldn't bear the sound of her lies, so I deleted the message. My fingers trembling as I ordered another drink, the alcohol fueling my anger, sharpening my resolve. I wasn't just going to sit here and take this. I was going to make them pay, both of them. For every lie, every stolen moment, every dollar they'd taken from me. I pulled up Tom's LinkedIn, my eyes narrowing as I scanned his profile, the smug headshot of him in a cheap suit. The bio that bragged about his innovative logistics startup. A startup I now knew was built on my money, my trust, my stupidity. I called my lawyer, Ethan. A shark in a suit who'd helped me navigate the cutthroat world of tech deals, his voice groggy as he answered at 11 p.m. "Mark, what's wrong?" he asked, but I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Jessica's been cheating on me with Tom Carter," I said, my voice low, controlled, a stark contrast to the storm inside me. "They've been using my money to fund his startup, hundreds of thousands. Ethan, I need you to look into it, now." Ethan was silent for a moment, then his voice turned sharp. "All business. If what you're saying is true, we've got grounds for fraud, misrepresentation, and a hell of a divorce case. I'll start digging first thing tomorrow." I hung up, my mind racing, a plan beginning to take shape, a plan as cold and calculated as their betrayal. I wasn't going to confront them, not yet. I needed more proof, more leverage, more time to let the rage simmer into something I could use. I ordered another whiskey, my eyes scanning the bar. The faces of strangers a blur as I thought about the life I'd thought I had. Jessica's laughter at our wedding, Tom's toast, the way we'd all celebrated my startup's first $1 million deal together. It was all a lie, a house of cards built on their betrayal, and I was going to burn it to the ground. They thought they'd played me for a fool, but they'd underestimated me. I was Mark Reynolds, the man who'd built an empire from nothing, and I was going to tear theirs down, piece by piece. Stick around, because this drama is about to get uglier, and I'm just getting started. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of my office, casting harsh lines across my desk, but I hadn't slept. Not a wink. Jessica's betrayal, the messages, the photos, the bank statements. They'd kept me up all night, my mind a whirlwind of rage and betrayal, my laptop open to Tom's startup page, a stark reminder of the empire they'd tried to build on my dime. My phone was a minefield of missed calls and texts, Jessica, Tom, even Jessica's sister, Emily, who'd left a voicemail saying, "I'm so sorry, Mark, I didn't know." But I didn't care about apologies. Not anymore. My anger had hardened into something colder, something more dangerous, and I knew I needed to play this smart, to channel my pain into a plan that would make them regret ever crossing me. Ethan called at 7:30 a.m., his voice sharp, all business, as he laid out what he'd found overnight. "It's worse than we thought," he said, his tone grim. "Jessica's been transferring money to Tom for 4 years, not 3, over $400,000 in total. And Tom's been using your name to secure investors, claiming you're a silent partner in his startup. That's fraud, Mark, and it's enough to bury them both." I leaned back in my chair, my hands steepled, a bitter smile tugging at my lips as the pieces of my plan fell into place. What about the divorce? I asked, my voice steady, my heart pounding with a mix of rage and anticipation. You've got grounds for infidelity, financial misconduct, and emotional distress. Ethan said, she won't get a dime, and we can sue for damages. But we need to move fast, before she lawyers up. I spent the morning in a haze, my team at the startup buzzing around me, oblivious to the storm brewing in my personal life. I played the part of the focused CEO, nodding at reports, signing off on deals, but my mind was elsewhere, plotting every move. Every detail of the revenge I'd exact on Jessica and Tom. I called my CFO, Rachel, a no-nonsense woman who'd been with me since the beginning, and told her to freeze all joint accounts with Jessica. Effective immediately. Don't let her touch a cent, I said, my voice cold, and Rachel didn't ask questions, she knew better. She's already tried to withdraw $15,000 this morning, Rachel said. Her tone dry, a hint of amusement in her voice. The bank shut her down, and she was screaming at the teller, calling it a mistake. I've got it on lockdown, Mark. I smiled, a real smile this time, picturing Jessica's panic, her perfect world unraveling thread by thread. But I needed more than frozen accounts. I needed to hit them where it hurt most. I called Victor, a rival CEO in the logistics space, a man known for his ruthless business tactics, the kind of guy who'd buy a failing company just to strip it for parts. I've got a deal for you, I said. My tone all business, my voice steady despite the rage simmering beneath the surface. I laid out the details. Tom's startup, built on my money, was a house of cards. And I wanted Victor to buy it for pennies on the dollar, leaving Tom with nothing but debt. Victor laughed, a low, predatory sound, his voice dripping with excitement. I've been eyeing Carter Logistics for years, he said. You've got a deal, Reynolds. I'll have my team draw up the papers today. I hung up, a cold satisfaction settling in my chest. Knowing Tom's dream, the one he'd built on my trust, was about to be crushed under Victor's heel. That afternoon, I drove to a hotel in Santa Monica. The kind of place where the staff didn't ask questions, where I could think without Jessica's voice echoing in my head. I checked into a suite, the ocean glittering through the window, and poured myself a drink, my laptop open to the messages I'd found last night. I read them again, each one a fresh wound, but now they fueled my resolve instead of my pain. Jessica had written to Tom about me, mocking my long hours, my trust, my love. He's so clueless, she'd typed, followed by a string of laughing emojis, and Tom had replied, we'll have it all soon. Babe, just wait. His money, our future. I clenched my glass, the whiskey sloshing, my anger a living thing, coiling tighter with every word. But then, a new message popped up, an email notification. One I hadn't seen before, from Jessica to her sister, Emily, dated just 2 days ago. I think Mark's getting suspicious. We need to move faster. Tom's ready to leave LA with me once we get the last of the money. The words hit me like a freight train, my breath catching in my throat. My vision blurring with a rage so intense I thought I might shatter the glass in my hand. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning to run away together, to take my money and disappear, leaving me with nothing but a broken marriage and a bankrupt startup. I stood, pacing the room, my mind racing with the implications, the betrayal cutting deeper than I'd thought possible. I called a private investigator, Carlos, a guy I'd worked with before, his voice gruff as he answered on the first ring. I need everything on Jessica and Tom, I said, my voice low, steady, a blade cutting through my pain. Every meeting, every text, every place they've been together. I want to know how deep this goes. Carlos didn't flinch. He'd seen worse. Give me 48 hours, he said. And I hung up, my mind racing with possibilities, with the satisfaction of knowing I was building a trap they'd never escape. But I couldn't wait 48 hours to make them feel the heat. I drove to Jessica's office, a chic design studio in West Hollywood, the kind of place where influencers snapped selfies with her mood boards. She was there, pacing in her glass-walled office. Her phone pressed to her ear, her face pale with panic as she argued with someone. Probably the bank, I thought, a smirk tugging at my lips. I walked in, my presence a storm cloud. And her head snapped up, her eyes wide with fear, her phone slipping from her hand as she saw me. Mark, she stammered, her voice trembling, her hands wringing together as she took a step toward me. I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk. I can explain everything. I held up a hand, my voice cold, my eyes burning into hers. I know about the money, Jessica, I said, each word a dagger, her face paling further with every syllable. I know about Tom, about the affair, about your plan to run away with my money. So don't you dare stand there and lie to me again. Her knees buckled, her hands gripping the edge of her desk for support, her voice a desperate plea. Mark, please, I didn't mean for it to go this far, she cried, tears streaming down her face, her mascara running in black streaks. I love you, I do. He was a mistake, but I can't lose you. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that made her flinch, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. You love me, I said, my voice dripping with scorn, my eyes narrowing as I stepped closer, towering over her. You've been stealing from me for 4 years. Jessica, laughing at me behind my back, planning to leave me for Tom. Don't you dare talk to me about love. I turned to leave, her sobs echoing behind me, but her voice stopped me. A desperate scream that cut through the air. Mark, wait. I'm pregnant. I froze, my blood running cold, my heart stopping in my chest as I turned back to her. Her tear-streaked face a mask of desperation. But I knew better than to believe her. Not now, not ever. The trap was set, and I was ready to pull the trigger. The words hung in the air like a grenade. Jessica's desperate claim, I'm pregnant, echoing in my ears as I stood in her West Hollywood office, the glass walls reflecting her tear-streaked face. Her hands clutching her stomach as if to prove her point. My heart pounded, a mix of rage and disbelief churning in my gut, but I knew better than to fall for her lies, not again. Pregnant? I said, my voice low, dangerous, my eyes narrowing as I took a step toward her, my hands trembling with the effort to keep from grabbing her, shaking the truth out of her. You expect me to believe that? Jessica? After everything you've done? Her lips quivered, her eyes darting away, her voice a whisper as she stammered. It's true, Mark. I found out last week. It's yours. But I saw the flicker of doubt in her eyes, the way her hands tightened on her stomach, and I knew she wasn't sure. And neither was I. I turned on my heel, my jaw clenched, my mind racing as I stormed out of her office, her sobs fading behind me as I stepped into the LA sun, the heat doing little to thaw the ice in my veins. I didn't believe her, not for a second, but the possibility, however slim, gnawed at me, a seed of doubt that threatened to derail my plan. I drove to Carlos, the PI, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my mind a whirlwind of rage and uncertainty. He met me at a diner in Koreatown, his folder of evidence a ticking time bomb on the table between us, his face unreadable as he slid it over. You're not gonna like this, he said, his voice gruff, his eyes sharp as I opened the folder. My heart pounding as I scanned the pages, photos of Jessica and Tom at a beachfront condo in Santa Monica, receipts from hotels, restaurants, even a fertility clinic where Jessica had gone for a consultation, her appointment dated just 3 weeks ago. There were text logs, emails, a voice recording of them laughing about me. Jessica's voice dripping with disdain as she said, Mark's too busy to notice. He's practically married to his startup. Carlos leaned back, his voice low. They've been at it for years, man. And that pregnancy? She told Tom the same thing last week, said it might be his. The words hit me like a sledgehammer, my breath catching in my throat. My vision blurring with a rage so intense I thought I might shatter the table in front of me. She lied to both of us, playing us against each other, using a potential pregnancy as a weapon to manipulate us, to keep us on the hook while she planned her escape. I closed the folder, my hands steady now, my mind razor-sharp. The final pieces of my plan falling into place. I drove to Victor's office, the rival CEO who'd agreed to buy Tom's startup, and handed him the paperwork Ethan had prepared. It's a done deal, Victor said, his smile predatory, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of a steal. Carter Logistics is mine, and Tom's looking at bankruptcy by the end of the month. I nodded, a cold satisfaction settling in my chest, knowing Tom's dream, the one he'd built on my money, my trust, was now in the hands of a man who'd dismantle it without a second thought. Back at my hotel, I called Rachel, my CFO, who confirmed the joint accounts were frozen, Jessica's credit cards declined, her access to our money cut off completely. She tried to buy a $5,000 handbag this morning. Rachel said, her voice dry, a hint of amusement in her tone. The store called me. They said she threw a fit, screamed that her husband would fix this. She's losing it, Mark. I smiled. picturing Jessica's meltdown, her perfect facade cracking under the weight of her own lies. But I wasn't done, not yet. I drove to the house late that night. The roses in the driveway wilted now, their crimson petals scattered across the pavement like bloodstains, a fitting metaphor for the death of our marriage. Jessica was there, sitting on the front steps, her face pale, her eyes red from crying, a bottle of wine in her hand as she looked up at me, her voice slurring as she spoke. "Mark, please," she said, her words a desperate plea, her hands reaching for me as I stepped out of the car. "I'm sorry, okay? I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to fix this." I stopped, my eyes burning into hers, my voice cold, final, a blade cutting through her pleas. "You're sorry," I said, my lips curling into a bitter smile, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. "You've been stealing from me for 4 years, Jessica. Sleeping with my best friend, planning to run away with him, and now you're sorry?" I took a step closer, my voice rising, my anger spilling over like a dam breaking. "You told Tom you might be pregnant with his kid, and now you're telling me it's mine? You think I'm that stupid?" Her face crumpled, her hands covering her mouth, her sobs shaking her frail frame as she whispered, "I don't know, Mark. I don't know whose it is." The admission was a punch to the gut, a fresh betrayal that made my vision blur with rage. But I didn't let it break me, not now, not when I was so close to the endgame. I called a realtor, Dave, a guy who specialized in quick sales, and told him to put the house on the market. Effective immediately. "I want it sold by the end of the week," I said, my voice steady, my eyes locked on Jessica as she sobbed on the steps, her world unraveling just as mine had. I packed a few things, my clothes, my laptop, a photo of my parents I couldn't bear to leave behind, and walked out, her cries echoing in the night as I drove away. The for sale sign already going up in the yard, a final nail in the coffin of our marriage. The trap was set, the noose tightening around Jessica and Tom, and I was ready to pull the final string. They'd thought they could play me, but they'd underestimated the man they'd betrayed. The endgame was here, and it was going to be brutal. The morning Jessica was served the divorce papers, I watched from across the street, parked in a rental car, my sunglasses hiding the storm in my eyes, the LA sun glinting off the hood of my car like a spotlight on the wreckage of my marriage. She opened the door to the process server, her hair a mess, her face pale, a stained sweatshirt hanging off her frame, a far cry from the polished Jessica I'd once known. I saw the moment she realized what was happening, her hands trembling as she tore open the envelope, her mouth falling open in shock, her eyes darting around as if she could sense me watching. Her voice a desperate scream as she yelled at the server. "This can't be happening. He can't do this to me." But I could, and I did. The house was already on the market. The for sale sign a stark reminder of the life she'd thrown away, and I knew she'd come home to find her credit cards declined, her accounts frozen, her world collapsing around her like a house of cards in a hurricane. I drove to Tom's office next, a rundown space in Culver City, the kind of place that screamed failure, a far cry from the empire he'd dreamed of building with my money. He was there, pacing in front of his desk, his phone pressed to his ear, his face red with anger as he yelled at someone. "Victor," I assumed, a smirk tugging at my lips as I imagined his panic. I walked in, my presence a storm cloud, and he froze, his phone slipping from his hand, his eyes wide with fear as he saw me. His voice trembling as he stammered, "Mark, I can explain, man. I didn't mean for," I cut him off, my voice cold, steady, a blade cutting through his excuses. "Your company's gone, Tom," I said. My eyes locked on his, my hands steady as I handed him a folder, copies of the bank statements, the messages, the evidence of his fraud. "Victor bought it this morning. You're bankrupt. And you've got nothing left to show for all those years of stealing from me." His face crumpled, his shoulders slumping, his voice a whisper as he sank into his chair. His hand shaking as he flipped through the folder, his world unraveling before my eyes. You can't do this," he said, his voice breaking, his eyes filling with tears as he looked up at me. His desperation a palpable thing. "I've got nothing left, Mark. Nothing." I smiled, a bitter, hollow smile, my voice low, final, as I leaned in, my hands braced on his desk, my eyes burning into his. "You should have thought of that before you slept with my wife," I said, each word a dagger, his face paling with every syllable. "You should have thought of that before you took my money. Before you laughed at me behind my back, before you plan to run away with her. You've got nothing because you deserve nothing. I turned to leave, his sobs echoing behind me. His voice a desperate plea as he called after me. Mark, please, I'm sorry. But I didn't look back. Not at him, not at the man I'd once called my best friend. Back at my hotel, I poured myself a drink, my mind replaying the last 7 years, the love I'd thought I had, the betrayal that had shattered it. Jessica called again, her voice a mix of rage and tears. Her words slurring as she screamed into the phone. You can't do this to me, Mark. You can't take everything. I'm pregnant, damn it. I need you. I hung up, my heart hardened against her lies. My resolve unshaken by her desperation. I knew the truth. Carlos had found a text from Jessica to Tom, dated just yesterday, where she admitted, I told Mark I'm pregnant to buy time. I don't even know if I am. The lie was the final nail in the coffin, the last piece of evidence I needed to walk away for good. I left LA the next day, my bags packed. My new life waiting for me in New York, where I'd already set up a new office for my startup, a fresh start far from the wreckage of my marriage. The house sold within a week. The proceeds deposited into a new account Jessica would never touch, and I heard through Ethan that she and Tom were facing a fraud lawsuit, their lives unraveling just as mine had. But the drama didn't end there. A month later, Carlos sent me a final update, a tabloid article, splashed across the front page of an LA gossip rag, with a photo of Jessica and Tom, their faces pale, their eyes hollow, as they left a courtroom, the headline screaming, Tech Mobile's ex-wife and best friend sued for fraud. Millions lost. The article detailed their downfall, Tom's bankruptcy, Jessica's public humiliation, even a rumor that she'd miscarried, though I doubted there'd ever been a pregnancy to begin with. I didn't look back, didn't let myself feel the pain, not yet. I'd survived, I'd won, and that was enough for now. But as I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, the New York skyline glittering before me, I couldn't help but wonder what might have been. What our life could have been if Jessica had been the woman I'd thought she was. I raised my glass to the city, a silent toast to the man I'd become. The man who'd walked through fire and come out stronger. Thanks for sticking with me through this roller coaster. Drop your thoughts below, and let me know if you'd have done the same. Or if you'd have gone even further.